There are two types of lenses you can choose between, zoom and prime lenses. Zoom lenses are self-explanatory, they zoom in and out. Prime lenses do not zoom, they have a fixed focal length. Neither are the right choice, they both have their pros and cons. Zoom lenses are more cost effective since you can cover a wider range of focal lengths with less lenses. They're also good if you're going to be filming something where you need to keep changing focal lengths because it means you don't have to switch out the lens halfway through filming. Prime lenses tend to have a sharper result since zooming over time can soften the glass inside and then soften the image. When you look at the front of the camera lens, there's a bunch of numbers on the front, little numbers. These numbers tell you the focal length and the aperture. Now you know how to choose a lens, it's time to shoot something. First things first, on the little tiny dial thing, set it to M, always shoot in manual. If you don't shoot in manual, I will come, find you, hunt you down and kill you. When it comes to frame rate, the industry standard is 24 frames per second, but this can vary depending on what you're filming. For example, if you're filming something in slow-mo, you're going to want a higher frame rate so that when you slow it down, it's not going to be all choppy or wow. So you tend to film in 60 frames per second. When it comes to exposure, the first thing you need to think about is the ISO. The ISO is artificial brightness, so it brightens the image without changing anything to do with the lens. But if you set the ISO too high, it can make your footage really grainy, add a load of noise, so you've got to be careful, you've got to find the right balance. Slower shutter speed lets more light in. So if you have your shutter speed set really low, then you're going to have a brighter image, vice versa. Shutter speed affects motion blur. If you don't have your shutter speed set right, then your footage will either look really choppy or it will look too smooth and look kind of unnatural. General rule of thumb is that the shutter speed should be about double the frame rate. So if you've got your frame rate set to 25 or 24, then your shutter speed should be 50. It's not necessarily exactly double, but it's the closest to, because on most cameras, shutter speed goes up in tens. So it would be 40 or 50. It depends what looks better, basically. You just got to eyeball it, kind of. Aperture is another setting that affects how much light is let in. Think of it like a pupil. So the wider it is, the more light's going to be let in, and then the smaller, the less light's going to be let in. Aperture affects the depth of field, which is basically how far in front of the lens the camera can see. It's like the difference between being short-sighted and long-sighted. If the aperture is set lower, then the camera can see further in front and the background's going to be blurry. But if it's a high aperture, then it's going to be able to see stuff far away. White balance tells the camera what white should look like. It's pure white, basically. There's two ways to set the white balance. You can either do it using a grey card, or if you know the temperature of the light you're working with, you can do it manually.